So after a few weeks of waiting around in 2.2, Kuro has revealed their plans for the anniversary update, and from the look of things, it wasn't received that well by some of the player base for multiple reasons. Now, Kuro has since somewhat addressed this, and I'm honestly pretty hopeful, because based off their statement, they understand where they went wrong. But a lot of people in the community are still upset, and from what I've read, this seems to be taken as Kuro just trying to buy time until the heat dies down. Now, I don't like drama videos, and I do try to stay away from making them, but regardless, I want to give my perspective on why Kuro has made so many people upset to start with, even with the release of what I would consider to be a really good patch. However, one of the things I want to mention before we jump into this is just my point of view based on my experience with gacha games, and it might differ from your own, so just take that into consideration going forward. Over the years in the gacha space, many games we've played have ended up going EOS or end of service because they were lacking in profit generation from players. This was very common early days, and over time, companies whose games were succeeding started to thank their players for supporting the game by throwing big celebrations at milestone events like a 1-year anniversary. This is important as for gacha players, it became a standard in the space, with it feeling like one of the most direct and clear ways for the devs to show how much they appreciate the players' continued support for the game and that the game was still active. This was welcomed by players who would see this generosity as a representation of not only which games are worth supporting, but also which devs appreciated that support the most. Now, in my view, this has become a show of respect that players hope to see from the developers of their favorite games and makes the players more likely to support the game going forward. This is what I consider to be one of the root causes of why this has made members of the community so upset, as this update alone is really good in my opinion, bringing not only some cool events, systems, banners, changes, and also characters that both seem to add a new spin to combat in the game. But even though it's looking like it's gonna be good, if I was being honest with you, this doesn't feel like an anniversary patch in the slightest. Anniversaries are supposed to be celebrations that the devs and players have together, where we as the players congratulate the devs for their game reaching 1 year old, and the devs in turn thank the players for supporting the game, typically through generosity of rewards. Now, I've seen some content creators mention how Kuro has been stacking up good faith, so in their mind, they will afford Kuro with some leniency by voicing their opinion on the lack of rewards, but ultimately tolerating it. However, for the more traditional gacha players who are used to how anniversaries tend to work, this goes a lot further than a simple lack of rewards, and for them actually conveys a message, with the message being that we don't actually need to celebrate our community support by showing any gratitude, because we're too big to fail and we don't need to. Now, this likely isn't the same mentality that every person who is upset will have, as everyone's opinion will be different, but ultimately it tends to land around the devs implying, thanks, but we don't need you. And this is such a big deal as it can be seen as a massive sign of disrespect to the player and creates a rift between the player's desire to support good developers and the dev team who's been hard at work bringing us the experience of Wuthering Waves. And when you create that mentality shift, their perspective can change from looking at the game with a glass half full perspective to a glass half empty. Right now, the game has issues and it's far from perfect, but a lot of the player base tends to ignore most of the issues for the simple fact that the devs have been putting in the effort to make the game better over time. But if the player starts to feel like their support isn't appreciated by the devs, let's just say that every player has a hammer, and even things that aren't issues are starting to look like nails. So I can understand why so many people in the community are upset, and I honestly agree with them. The rewards are nothing special, and it doesn't feel like much of a celebration at all. But I also agree with the players who are happy with the update as is and didn't want to rock the boat. For the more mainstream and I would say Western audience, as Westerners tend to be newer to the gacha genre, if you compare how the game's been progressing to a lot of other games that have been released in recent years, Kuro has been doing a great job, and other games don't tend to do these massive celebrations with their community, and sometimes depending on how mainstream the game is, might not even mention it. These two mentalities are nearly complete opposites of each other, as on one side we have players who have supported the game either through word of mouth with their friends or by putting money into the game, feel like their support isn't appreciated, which has led to some people comparing the patch to Genshin's first year anniversary, and even some people saying the whole update is outright dog shit. And on the other side, we have regular gamers who just want to play a good game and don't care if they get showered with rewards, and these players start to see the other members of the community community as irrational whining babies that are so hyper-focused on rewards that they can't see the forest for the trees. For the most part, the Wuthering Waves community has been exceptional at giving good feedback to the devs to improve the game over time, and can be somewhat to thank for the game taking a good direction. But when we start to voice opinions calling things bad or dog shit, when most people can see they're actually really good, not only do we start to be seen as irrational, which irrational opinions are for the most part not even worth the energy it takes to listen to them, but we can also start to obscure what the actual problem is with a bunch of bullshit that has very little reason to be in the conversation to start with. So here's my view. I am on the side of the people that think the anniversary rewards are bad, as in my view, this is not an anniversary patch, and without the existence of the anniversary livestream, it has no right to call itself such. I think if it remains as is, they will lose a lot of players' support for their decision to be more stingy during a time of celebration. But at the same time, I am against saying the patch is dog shit, as if this wasn't an anniversary, I would be so hyped for what's coming in 2.3, as it's bringing so many things to do, some events to learn, some rewards including a glider skin, and 2 new holograms for me to challenge. In my opinion, the patch itself looks great, and on its own doesn't deserve some of the criticism it's receiving. So I can also understand some of the players defending the game, as they can see the patch for what it is. A regular patch that makes the game better than it was yesterday, which compared to some of the other games that we've seen in more recent years, is more than enough. So I don't want to tell people how to think, but I hope that based on what we've talked about, I can give both sides of the fence a different perspective to view this from, as there are currently small arguments that are circulating in the community that are likely going to get worse as we get closer to 2.3's release. All I would ask from the community is that we just don't try to make enemies out of each other. Over the past year, the Wuthering Waves community has tended to be pretty good when it comes to typical gacha community divides, even with more typical rifts like between whales and free-to-plays being a small issue. So what I really hope for the most is that continues to be the case, as this game has one of the best communities that I've ever seen in the gacha space. But at the end of the day, you do you. Don't let some moron on the internet who spent the last 2 weeks playing the 2005 version of Need for Speed Most Wanted instead of making Wuthering Waves content like I should have been, tell you what to do. The main reason I wanted to make this video was to get my own view out there, but at the same time, I hope to help people think about the update and its criticism a bit differently instead of being all good or all bad. And that's it. So I'd like to thank everyone who made it to this point in the video. I won't do the regular subscribe shit, as like I said, I don't want to start making drama videos, so I don't really want anyone thinking that I plan to make more. However, feel free to leave a like on the video or leave a comment if you want to discuss your own point of view, but no matter what side of the fence you're on, I want to wish everyone a happy anniversary, including Kuro Games, and I hope that you all get whatever you're looking for from the update. Personally, I'm hoping to get Zani and her weapon, however, because she's apparently dual scaling, this will depend on how much it affects her ability to solo, as solo potential is rather important to me, and also if she requires specific teammates to function at the same level as other characters. But that will do it from me, so I hope to see you in the next video, and I'll catch us later. I wonder why they haven't made an anime style racing gacha before. This kind of game would be so cool with... Don't you fucking spot me. Are you fucking